My name's Rachel, 29F, and I thought I had the whole young adult life thing down. Good job working marketing for a local brewery in Asheville, North Carolina. Cute 2-bedroom townhouse with a tiny backyard I lovingly overwatered succulents in. And of course a boyfriend who was supposed to be the cherry on top of this pretty damn decent cupcake of a life. His name was Eric, 31M. And we'd been together for just over a year and a half. We met at a trivia night at a dive bar. He was with some friends from work, I was there with my roommate at the time, and we bonded over both blanking on who the seventh U.S. president was, spoiler, Andrew Jackson, but we guessed John Tyler like absolute idiots. He made me laugh, I liked how he smelled like cedarwood and coffee, and when he asked for my number, I gave it without hesitation. The first 6 months were bliss in that fresh, fuzzy way new relationships are. I'd been in enough dumpster fire flings to recognize when something was actually good. He brought me soup when I had the flu, sent random thinking of you texts in the middle of the day, remembered my dog Buster's birthday. He helped my mom with her groceries when we visited her in Durham, and my little cousin, who hates everyone, actually asked if he was coming to Thanksgiving that year. So when Eric floated the idea of moving in together last fall, I didn't hesitate. We found a townhouse that had just enough character to feel cozy but modern enough that the appliances weren't from the Clinton administration. I bought candles. He bought a flat screen. It was a compromise. We made it work. At the time, he worked for a solar panel installation company, field manager type. Always on the go. Wore those neon yellow vests and came home dusty but grinning. I work remote 3 days a week and go into the office for meetings and campaign planning. Our schedules didn't always overlap, but we made time. Or at least I thought we did. I need to be clear here. I wasn't out here playing detective. I wasn't snooping through his phone or being jealous or weird. I truly believed we were solid. Yeah, we had a couple arguments. Mostly about dumb stuff like him leaving wet towels on the bed or me being too typo with our budget spreadsheet, but nothing serious. Nothing that would have ever made me question whether he was someone I could see a real future with. And then came Jenna. If this story were a movie, this is where the creepy music would start playing and you'd get the close-up of my dumb, smiling face introducing myself to her like a sucker. Jenna was one of my newer friends, someone I met through a local book club. She was 28, funny in a chaotic way, wore boots year-round and drank oat milk lattes like they were water. She just moved back to Asheville from Denver after a messy breakup. And I was one of the first people in the group to really click with her. She reminded me of a younger version of me, bold, sarcastic, the kind of person who says exactly what's on her mind. She didn't know many people in town yet, so I invited her to things. Girls' nights, trivia, Sunday morning farmers markets. And yeah, sometimes she'd come to hang at our place too. She and Eric got along fast. I remember thinking how nice it was that they could laugh together, that she could feel comfortable around us. I never once saw her as a threat. Never had a reason to. Until I did. It started subtle. Looking back, it was almost embarrassingly obvious, but at the time I chalked it up to coincidence. Jenna would accidentally text Eric instead of me. Silly little things like, "Are we still on for Marg's Friday?" Which would be followed immediately by a "LOL oops" meant for Rachel grinning face with sweat. I wasn't pressed. Eric would laugh it off, hand me his phone, and I'd reply. Sometimes she'd show up when I didn't even realize she'd been invited. One Saturday I came home from running errands and she was already there, sitting cross-legged on the couch with Buster in her lap, watching Shark Tank and sipping one of our beers. She smiled and said, "Eric said I could let myself in. Hope that's cool." Again I brushed it off. She was going through a lot. I wanted to be the kind of friend who made people feel welcome. The kind of girlfriend who wasn't possessive. I thought I was being chill. What a joke. Still, there were little things that started to itch at me. Like how she'd laugh a little too hard at Eric's dumbest jokes. Or how she always seemed to sit closer than necessary on the couch. I mentioned it once to Eric, kind of joking like, "Yo, Jenna's got a little crush on you, huh?" And he just laughed and said, "Please. She's like my kid sister." I let it go. I trusted him. And that, dear Reddit, is how I got played like a damn fiddle. It wasn't until the week before Eric's birthday that I found out. Not by snooping. Not by Jenna slipping up. Not even through one of those dramatic friend of a friend confessions. No, what happened was stupider than that. See, I'd offered to help plan his 32nd birthday bash. He wanted a chill backyard vibe, some drinks, music, maybe a projector for a movie later in the night. We were inviting about 20 people, friends from his job, my coworkers, a couple people from the book club, and our neighbors who always let us steal their recycling bin when ours got too full. I was ordering decorations from a local party supply store online using Eric's laptop, because mine had just crashed thanks to a failed macOS update. While finalizing the cart, a text notification popped up in the corner of the screen. It was short. Just said, "I had a dream about you again. Same couch. Same hands." The contact name? Jenna Sunflower. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might puke. I didn't even think. I clicked. The moment I clicked on Jenna's message, it was like the rest of the world dimmed out. I couldn't hear the ceiling fan above me. Couldn't register Buster scratching at the back door. Couldn't even breathe right. Just that one text sitting there like a tumor. "I had a dream about you again. Same couch. Same hands." Like it was poetry. Like she was proud of it. My hand was shaking on the trackpad as I opened their thread, hoping really, for some innocent context, maybe a misunderstanding, a joke, something that would make me feel like a paranoid lunatic. But no. Oh no. That thread was a rabbit hole straight into the dark, dirty, cheating heart of the man I'd built my life with, and the woman I'd called my friend. There were weeks of messages going back months. Not every day, but enough. Enough to confirm what my gut had just started whispering in those weird, quiet moments at night. It started tame, kind of flirty in a gross "is this banter or emotional cheating?" kind of way. Stuff like Jenna texting Eric things like, "You looked good today. That shirt color does things to me eyes." Or, "Ugh, I wish Rachel understood your sense of humor like I do lol." Eric would respond with little jokes, sometimes emojis, sometimes full-on paragraphs venting about our minor disagreements, painting me like some tight-ass control freak. I didn't cry when I read those. I went cold. My body was frozen, but my brain? That thing lit up like a server farm on fire. I kept scrolling. The more I read, the worse it got. Eventually the text escalated to things I won't even type out. Descriptions of nights they'd spent together. Coded references to late deliveries, when Eric claimed he'd been held up on the job. There was even a meme Jenna sent. Some dumb thing about how to sneak your side piece past your girlfriend. And Eric replied with LMAO2 real face with tears of joy. That one stuck in my chest like a nail. Then there were pictures. Nothing explicit, thank God, but selfies. Her in our bathroom mirror. Him in her apartment with our dog in the background. Buster. That innocent little traitor. I don't blame him, obviously, but the idea that they had taken my dog to her place made my skin crawl. There was even a video, just a 6-second snap, but it was Jenna laughing while holding a beer and saying, "He's literally here right now." I told her I was at yoga rolling on the floor laughing. My mind kept trying to stop me. Like some survival part of my brain begged me to just slam the laptop shut and walk away. But I didn't. I had to see how far the rot went. And it went deep. I searched keywords in their chat. Love. Hotel. Sorry. That sorry search hit different. There were multiple times one of them had tried to call it off, usually Jenna saying stuff like, "I don't want to be that person." And Eric would say, "You're not. You're the only real one in my life." That line made me laugh out loud. This short, bitter bark that scared Buster into hiding under the table. I just kept reading, collecting screenshots like evidence at a murder trial. Which honestly it kind of was. The murder of our relationship. The murder of my trust. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was emotional, strategic. It was planned. There were whole conversations about how they were going to phase me out. How Eric wanted to end things gently and not ruin the friend group. At one point Jenna even said, "I almost feel bad, she's been so nice to me." To which Eric replied, "That's why we can't just drop it all. It has to be clean." I'll admit it, I cracked a little at that point. I just sat there on the couch and let the hurt flood in. I felt like I was watching myself from across the room. Some tragic character in a cheap Netflix drama. My coffee had gone cold, my phone had buzzed twice with a text from Eric. "Want me to pick up dinner later?" Hilarious. I stared at the screen like it was a snake. Dinner? He wanted to bring me dinner? After probably sneaking back from Jenna's apartment like the weasel he was? I didn't reply. I didn't throw the laptop across the room like they do in movies either. I'm not dramatic like that. Instead, I got organized. I opened a blank Word doc and started pasting the worst of the messages. Just the clearest ones, the ones you couldn't spin or excuse. I wanted the truth in black and white. A digital slap in the face. I was calm. Eerily calm. By the end of the night, I had 27 screenshots. All time-stamped, formatted, labeled. I even used headings. The first slip. The gaslighting phase. The plan to replace me. That last one? Yeah, I titled it like a documentary. You know, just for kicks. I didn't sleep that night. Eric came home at 10:43 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was watching the clock tick while pretending to scroll TikTok. He kissed the top of my head and said, "Sorry I'm late, Franklin's roof took forever. You good?" I smiled. I said, "All good. Hope you're hungry for your birthday party." He grinned and said, "You're the best." Then he walked into the kitchen and cracked open a beer, not realizing he was a dead man walking. The rage didn't hit me all at once. It crept in like a storm tide, slow and steady, until everything inside me was soaked in it. I didn't want to scream. I wanted justice. Eric had a birthday party planned for the following Saturday. Backyard bash. He'd invited coworkers, neighbors, friends from college, and yes, Jenna. Of course she'd be there. She was even bringing chips and queso. The audacity. He said he wanted it to be special. Chill. A celebration of life and good people. I said, "Cool. I'll make sure it's unforgettable." The idea came to me at 2:17 a.m., while I was laying in bed staring at the ceiling fan. He wanted a party. I'd give him one. But not just any party. A reveal. A reckoning. Something no one there would forget. Not him. Not Jenna. Not even the neighbors. I grabbed a notepad and began scribbling. Supplies I'd need. Names of guests. How to time it. My hands were trembling but my mind was clear. He gave me the perfect stage. And I was going to burn it all down with a smile. If you're going to go for revenge, you can't half-ass it. That's one thing my older brother always told me. He used to prank his roommates in college with elaborate, borderline FBI-level schemes involving motion sensors and glitter bombs. And every time I'd say he was crazy, he'd just shrug and say, "If you're gonna do it, commit." So that was the mindset I took into what I now refer to as Operation Birthday Surprise. It wasn't enough for me to just dump the screenshots on social media or scream at Eric in front of our friends. That wasn't satisfying enough. This wasn't about just getting mad. This was about exposing the truth. I wanted everyone to see exactly who they were dealing with, laid bare and unfiltered. Eric had spent months crafting this image of being the reliable, loyal, kind-hearted guy who loved his girlfriend and volunteered at the local food bank. Jenna had positioned herself as this quirky, recovering heartbreak hipster chick who just needed some girl time and healing. They had everyone fooled, including me. But not anymore. The Saturday of the party was 5 days away, which gave me plenty of time to craft my masterpiece. The first step was locking in the guest list. Eric had already sent out the invites on Facebook, but I asked him to give me the confirmed list, so I could get the right amount of party favors. He didn't even blink, just texted me a list of 23 names like the trusting idiot he was. That list included his boss Greg, Greg's wife, 2 of his coworkers from the solar company, my coworker Lindsay, who thank God I trusted with my life, 3 of our mutual friends from trivia night, his gym buddy Marcus, and of course Jenna. She RSVP'd with a thumbs up emoji and a comment. Chips and queso coming in hot fire. I almost choked when I saw it. Next, I went to Michael's and bought 25 tiny gift boxes. They were matte black with magnetic lids. Classy, discreet, and about the size of a deck of cards. I also bought a roll of gold ribbon and a few sheets of thick cream-colored paper. I printed out one message for each guest. Not 27 screenshots, but the 27 best lines, one per person. Some of them were quotes from Eric, some from Jenna, and a few were actual back and forths that were short but damning. I didn't just include the raunchy stuff, I wanted a mix. The emotional manipulation, the lies, the plans, the phase her out quotes, all of it. One gift box got the message where Eric wrote, "I'm only with her until I can move out without drama." Another got the quote from Jenna saying, "I low-key love the thrill of it. It's like we're in a secret club." Every box had the same little card on top. "Thanks for celebrating, Eric. Here's a glimpse of the man you're here for. Love R." I made sure the boxes looked beautiful, gold ribbon tied perfectly, card printed in a classy serif font. The messages rolled like mini scrolls and fastened with a gold paperclip. I even spritzed the tissue paper inside with a little lavender spray because I wanted the scent to burn itself into their memory. Lavender. The smell of betrayal. I told Eric the boxes were sentimental notes from people in his life. He was touched. Said I was the most thoughtful woman on earth. I smiled and kissed his cheek. "You deserve it," I said. I spent the next few nights making fake conversation with him over dinner, while perfecting the placement of the boxes in a large wicker basket lined with burlap. I told him I'd bring it out after dessert, right before the movie started. He said I was seriously amazing and going overboard. I said, "That's what love is, right?" And he nodded like the smug little idiot he was. The night before the party, I barely slept. Not from nerves, from anticipation. I couldn't wait to see the look on his face. I couldn't wait for Jenna's dumb little laugh to die in her throat. I couldn't wait for people to know. I even practiced my smile in the mirror. Subtle. Controlled. The smile of someone who has made peace with devastation and turned it into performance art. Saturday arrived sunny and humid. Classic Carolina summer weather. I wore a flowy white sundress and sandals, curled my hair, and put on my grandmother's old pendant necklace. I wanted to look angelic. Unbothered. Ethereal even. Eric was buzzing around setting up lawn chairs and stringing fairy lights on the fence, playing host with that performative charm he always pulled out for parties. He kissed me twice while he was putting out beer and said, "You look like a goddess today." I said, "You're gonna remember me that way." He laughed. I didn't. Guests started arriving around 5 p.m. The first were Greg and his wife, then Marcus, then Lindsay and our friend Nate. Everyone brought drinks or snacks and complimented the setup. I kept smiling, handing out lemonades, introducing people. Jenna showed up fashionably late around 6:15. She was wearing cutoff shorts and a red tank top, sunglasses on her head, and holding a huge bowl of queso with a smug little grin. "I brought the goods," she announced. Eric lit up when he saw her. Not enough for normal people to notice, but I saw it. Clocked it. She gave me a side hug, told me I looked so glowy. And I thanked her like I hadn't been watching her flirt with my boyfriend for 3 months. The audacity of cheaters, I swear to God. The party rolled on. People were drinking, laughing, playing cornhole. Eric made a toast around 7, thanking everyone for coming, saying how grateful he was for the amazing people in his life. I almost clapped. Almost. When the sun started dipping and we brought out dessert, I knew it was time. Everyone had a brownie or a beer in hand. Conversation was easy and loose. I cleared my throat, smiled and said, "Hey everyone. I brought something a little special for you all." Eric wanted this party to be memorable, so I put together a little something to take home with you. I lifted the basket. "Party favors. Don't open them just yet. I want you all to do it together." Eric looked surprised but pleased. "You didn't have to do all this," he said. "Of course I did," I replied. "You deserve exactly this." Once everyone had a box in hand, I raised mine and said, "On 3. They laughed, indulging me. I counted. 1, 2, 3. The sound of 20+ boxes opening at once is weirdly specific. Kind of like a wave of muted claps. Then silence. For a good 10 seconds it was just rustling tissue paper and people unfolding their scrolls. The first gasp came from Lindsay. Then Marcus said, "What the hell?" Then someone, pretty sure it was Greg's wife, said, "Is this a joke?" Eric hadn't opened his yet. He was watching everyone else confused. Then he looked down and saw his. He unrolled it and read, his eyes scanning fast, his face going pale. Jenna, who had been giggling a minute earlier with someone over by the cooler, pulled her scroll and froze. Then turned to me. "Rachel," she said, but it wasn't a question. It was panic. Eric's jaw was tight. He was shaking his head like he could reverse the last 30 seconds. "What the F, Rachel, what is this?" "It's your greatest hits," I said sweetly. "Curate it for your adoring audience." You could hear a pin drop. Nate muttered, "Yo." Like it was a horror movie. Lindsay put her hand over her mouth. Jenna dropped her box. Buster barked from the porch like he knew something was off. Eric stepped toward me like that would somehow undo the damage. "You went through my messages?" he hissed. I tilted my head. I didn't go looking. Popped up. But once I saw the truth, well, I figured everyone else deserved to see it too. "You're insane," Jenna snapped, her voice shaking. "I trusted you. And I trusted you not to screw my boyfriend," I snapped back. "Guess we all make mistakes. I think people expect cheating confrontations to be loud. Screaming, crying, dramatic sobbing while someone throws a wine glass against the wall. But reality? It's quieter." The silence after everyone read those messages was heavier than any shout. The kind of silence that feels thick in your lungs. The kind of silence that makes people look at each other, not sure what to say or who to believe. That's what I created. Not chaos. Clarity. Jenna looked like she'd been slapped across the face with a snow shovel. Her mouth hung open, blinking way too fast like she could blink her way out of the situation. Eric. His color changed in real time. Pale, then red, then back to ghost white. He looked like a man whose car just flipped over a guardrail midair, knowing the crash was coming but powerless to stop it. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. He turned to me like I was the one who set the house on fire while forgetting he was the one holding the matches. You didn't have to do this in front of everyone, he muttered, voice low but angry. Not apologetic. Angry. That was all I needed to hear. Actually, I said, loud enough for the whole yard to hear. I did. Because you two weren't just sneaking around behind my back, you were lying to all these people too. Our friends. Our coworkers. Everyone here thought you were a good guy, Eric. Thought Jenna was some sweet, unlucky-in-love woman just looking for a fresh start. But guess what? You're both just liars. And I'm done cleaning up the mess. Greg's wife, Laura, I think, stood up and just walked out without saying a word. Marcus let out this half-laugh like he didn't know what else to do. Nate shook his head, whistled and muttered, "Damn." Like he was watching an NBA buzzer beater. Lindsay made eye contact with me and gave me a tiny nod. Jenna tried to play the victim. It wasn't like that, she started, stepping forward. It wasn't serious, Rachel. It was just a mistake. That word mistake set something off in me. I dropped the box I was holding onto the table beside me and stepped toward her. You were in my house, Jenna. You pet my dog. You hugged me while you were sleeping with my boyfriend. A mistake is spilling coffee on someone's shirt. What you did. That was calculated. You knew exactly what you were doing. Don't stand there and pretend it just happened. Her face crumpled and she looked at Eric, like maybe he'd swoop in to defend her. But he was too busy looking around, watching the crowd of people silently judge him. He was cracking and I could see it. It was beautiful. You planned this, he muttered at me like I'd committed some moral crime. You planned this whole thing just to make me look bad. I laughed. Actually laughed. Eric, you made yourself look bad. I just gave everyone a little window. That's when someone from the back, pretty sure it was his coworker Devin, said, "Dude, I can't believe you brought her to your company barbecue and introduced her as Rachel's friend." The rest of the crowd murmured. That's when it started falling apart for real. People picked up their drinks and quietly walked out. Lindsay grabbed Nate's arm and said, "We're heading out. You good, Ratch?" I smiled and nodded. "I'm good." Marcus gave me a fist bump on his way out and whispered, "Legend." Even Greg, his boss, just stared at him and said, "Not a good look, man," before turning to his wife and walking out. Jenna was still standing there, holding her scroll like it might burst into flames. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said weakly, almost to herself. "I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt." I grabbed the lighter from the patio table and flicked it on. The flame danced between us. "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you let him touch you on my couch." That got her. Her face twisted and she spun around, storming through the gate, slamming it behind her so hard the latch bounced. She didn't even take her queso. The party had thinned out dramatically. About 5 people were still lingering, kind of milling around awkwardly, unsure if they should say something or pretend they hadn't just witnessed a social execution. Eric and I were alone on the patio, the string lights flickering overhead, the playlist still droning in the background like a ghost too polite to leave. He sat down hard on the bench and stared at the ground. "You embarrassed me," he said finally. I sat across from him, calm, centered, lighter still in hand. "You humiliated me first, Eric. Repeatedly. You lied to my face. You slept with my friend. And you expected me to just, what? Cry about it in the shower while you made eggs like nothing happened?" He didn't answer. He just shook his head and ran a hand through his hair. "I was gonna tell you," he muttered. "Eventually." "Oh wow. Thanks. What a hero." He looked up at me and for a second I could tell he was trying to decide what angle to play. The regretful ex? The defensive jerk? The sad little boy who made a bad decision? But I wasn't biting. "We're done," I said. "I already packed a bag. I'll be staying with Lindsay until I can find a place. The lease is in both our names, so we'll figure that out like adults. But us? This?" I waved between us. "This is finished." He stood up like maybe he thought he could change my mind. "You don't have to leave. I'll go. You'll do whatever you want. That's been clear for months." He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked out, past the torn balloons, past the burned-out citronella candle, past the scattered gift boxes still littered across the yard like broken eggs. Buster trotted behind me, his tail low, as if even he understood that the party was over. I didn't look back. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked out with my head high, the air cool on my skin, and the taste of lavender still lingering in the back of my throat. I gave Eric the party he wanted. And I gave myself the closure I deserved. The first message came through before I even reached Lindsay's place. I hadn't even unpacked the duffel bag I'd thrown together the night before. Hadn't fed Buster. Hadn't even taken off my sandals. My phone buzzed with Eric's name lighting up the screen. And I let it ring out without a second thought. The voicemail that followed was just muffled breathing and a muttered, "I can't believe you did that." That would be the theme for the next 48 hours. Eric couldn't believe I'd exposed him. Couldn't believe I'd air our personal business like that. As if cheating on me with my friend wasn't personal enough. As if he hadn't already turned my private life into some sick secret performance. Sunday morning, I woke up to 13 unread messages. 7 were from Eric. 2 were from blocked numbers, probably Jenna. 1 was from my mom, who'd clearly heard something through the grapevine. And 3 were from mutual friends just sending supportive, vague messages like, "Thinking of you." That was wild. LMK if you wanna talk. I didn't respond to any of them right away. Lindsay made cinnamon rolls and put on a record, Fleetwood Mac because of course, and we just sat in her sunroom drinking coffee like it was any other Sunday. Except my entire relationship had imploded in front of 20 people the night before, and now I was living out of a bag of wrinkled t-shirts and emotional wreckage. Around noon I checked my Instagram. My story from the party. Just a photo of the gift boxes in their neat little rows with the caption "Truth always fits." Had blown up. Not viral, not internet famous level, but way more attention than I ever expected. People had shared it. A few of Eric's coworkers had commented with eye emojis and "dih." Someone from book club posted a cryptic story saying, "Some people really do be cheating with their friend's man grimacing face." Jenna's account? Deleted. Gone. Like she'd vanished into the digital ether. Which made me grin a little. Couldn't handle the heat, apparently. By 3 p.m. The messages shifted tone. Eric had moved from, "I can't believe you did that," to "Can we talk?" And then to "You don't understand the pressure I've been under." Pressure? The man worked 4 days a week and spent his evenings playing fantasy football. What pressure? Folding laundry? Picking a Spotify playlist? Please. Then came the long one. A wall of text. No punctuation. Like a stream of consciousness meltdown typed by someone who just discovered thumbs. "Rachel, I know you're mad and you have every right to be. I messed up, I know that, but we can talk about this, just us, not with everyone watching. I never wanted to hurt you. And I know I should have told you sooner, it just got out of hand and I didn't know how to fix it. Please can we talk? I miss you, and Buster, I miss waking up next to you. Please say something, anything." I didn't reply. Instead, I turned off my phone and took Buster for a walk. It was sunny and quiet. And I let him sniff every mailbox he wanted. Let him roll in the grass, let myself breathe. I wasn't sad. That surprised me. I expected to feel shattered or numb or hollow. But I didn't. I felt clean. Like something had been cut out of me, something diseased. The sadness I realized had passed weeks ago before I even knew why. Before the texts. Before Jenna. There had been something growing between us. Something gray and heavy. And I'd kept pretending it was just life. Just stress. But it wasn't. It was rot. And I'd finally cut it out. Monday morning, Eric showed up at Lindsay's. I don't know how he knew where she lived. Probably from some old mail or GPS history. But there he was standing on the porch with a pathetic little paper bag in his hands. I saw him through the window and didn't move. Lindsay answered the door, bless her, and he tried to talk his way in. "I just want to see her," he said. 5 minutes. Please. Lindsay crossed her arms. "She doesn't want to see you. She doesn't get to just blow up my life and walk away." "Funny," Lindsay said. "Because that's exactly what she gets to do." He tried again, this time appealing to emotion. "I brought muffins," he said, holding up the bag. "They're from the bakery she likes. Blueberry." I was upstairs listening through the open window and I actually laughed. Not loud enough for him to hear. Just enough to let the absurdity sink in. Blueberry muffins? As if that would fix anything. As if my trust was a paper cut and not a gut wound. Eventually he gave up. Left the bag on the porch and walked off. I waited a good 10 minutes before going down and grabbing it. They were blueberry, still warm, still soft. I fed one to Buster. He deserved it more than Eric did. That night, the apology letter arrived. Actual paper, sealed envelope, his handwriting. He must have thought going analog would make it more sincere. It was 3 pages long, filled with lines like, "You meant everything to me." And, "I was scared of how serious it was getting." And Jenna didn't mean anything. That last part? That one pissed me off. Because if she didn't mean anything, then what the hell was I worth? A placeholder? A comfort zone until someone newer and shinier came along? Don't insult me by pretending it was meaningless. If it meant nothing, why hide it for months? Why sneak around? Why lie? I burned the letter in Lindsay's fire pit. Watched the edges curl and turn to ash. Watched the last line, "I still love you," disappear into smoke. The next few days were quieter. Jenna never reached out, which was a mercy. Some of the people from the party did, though. Devin texted to say he respected how I handled it. Greg emailed to say he didn't want the drama to affect things at work and hoped I was doing okay. Laura dropped off a bottle of wine with a post-it that just said badass. I started thinking about moving. Not just from Eric's house but from Asheville entirely. The place was beautiful, sure, but every corner felt haunted now. The farmer's market where Jenna and I used to wander. The dive bar where Eric and I first met. The dog park where they probably laughed behind my back. I needed new streets. New energy. I started looking at apartments in Charleston. Maybe Wilmington. Somewhere coastal. Somewhere bright. Lindsay offered to come with me to tour places. Said we could make a girls' weekend out of it. I said yes. Because if I learned anything from the fire, it's that you can't rebuild in the ashes of what betrayed you. You have to go somewhere fresh. Somewhere the ghosts can't follow. The truth? I'm not sad he's gone. I'm sad I wasted time on someone who didn't value loyalty. I'm sad I doubted my instincts when they whispered that something was off. But mostly I'm proud. Proud that I chose truth over comfort. Proud that I didn't let myself become a passive victim. Proud that I set the record straight, not out of spite but out of necessity. Because people like Eric and Jenna thrive in the shadows. And I just turned on the floodlights. By the end of the week I started noticing the ripple effect. That's the thing no one tells you about a good revenge moment. It doesn't just explode and disappear. It expands. Like a stone thrown into a pond. Wave after wave spreading wider than you ever thought possible. I had lit a fuse on Saturday night. And by Friday afternoon, people who weren't even at the party were texting me. Apparently, one of Jenna's exes had seen the story and shared it in some local Facebook group dedicated to dating accountability, or something like that. Then someone from her yoga studio posted about people who preach self-love while sneaking around with someone else's partner. And that spiraled into a comment section war involving at least 2 of Jenna's former coworkers. By Saturday morning, she was Asheville famous for all the wrong reasons. It didn't help that a few people from the party had uploaded their gift box messages, complete with Eric's name unredacted. No one said my name directly, but it didn't take a detective to connect the dots. I was tagged in a Reddit thread. Someone messaged me asking for an interview on a local podcast. I declined, but still. It was weird. Surreal. I wasn't doing any of this for attention. I just wanted truth. But once truth leaves the box, it develops a life of its own. That Sunday, a week after the party, I got a message from Taylor. Not one of my close friends. More like a mutual acquaintance who floated around the edges of our social circle. Taylor had always been kind, always low-key. She DM'd me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I know this is random. I just wanted to say thank you for what you did. I was in a similar situation and I never had the guts to say anything. You're braver than I ever was." That message hit me harder than I expected. Because underneath all the chaos, all the performative rage and the public unveiling, what I'd really needed was validation. Not praise. Not clout. Just to know that I wasn't crazy. That trusting someone and getting burned doesn't make you weak. That exposing betrayal isn't overkill. It's survival. I replied to Taylor, thanked her, told her she wasn't alone. We ended up getting coffee the next day. It felt like meeting a secret club member. One of those women who knew what it was like to be lied to while smiling through it. She told me about her ex. Some guy named Brian who'd been cheating on her with his assistant for months. She kept quiet, tried to rise above. And in the end, Brian got to control the narrative. Paint her as bitter, difficult, cold. That wasn't going to be my legacy. No way. If anything, I wanted my story to be a warning. Do not test the quiet ones. We are only quiet until we're not. Meanwhile, Eric tried again. Of course he did. He started emailing me long-winded novels about how he was going to therapy, about how he had deep-rooted trust issues that made him self-sabotage, about how he didn't even really like Jenna but felt pressured to keep going once it started. Pressure. There it was again. Like cheating on me with my friend was some moral obligation he had no way of refusing. He wanted closure. He wanted a real conversation. He wanted mutual healing. I wanted him to shut up. I never replied. Not once. The more I ignored him, the more erratic the messages got. He started flip-flopping between groveling and guilt-tripping. One email would say, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, I was an idiot." And the next would accuse me of taking it too far and weaponizing people's opinions. Weaponizing. The only thing I did was show the truth. If the truth hurt him, that wasn't my problem. That was just the natural consequence of being a liar. Then came the twist I didn't expect. Jenna's mom reached out to me through Facebook Messenger. Her name's Debbie, and I only met her once briefly at a book club brunch where she'd tagged along. At the time, she was warm and bubbly and told me I reminded her of her niece. Now she was in my inbox sending me a 3-paragraph message that started with, "You don't know me very well, and I'm sure I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for what my daughter did to you." I read it 3 times. She said she'd raised Jenna better than that she was embarrassed and heartbroken, that her daughter had acted with so little integrity. She said, "You didn't deserve to be treated that way, especially not by someone you welcomed into your home." I almost cried. Not because of what Debbie said, although it was kind, but because I knew my own mom would have done the same if the roles were reversed. I replied short and polite, told her I appreciated the message, told her I hoped Jenna could learn from it. That was it. I didn't want revenge anymore. I had it. The balance had already tipped. Now I just wanted peace. But peace wasn't easy to find in a town where everyone suddenly knew my business. The grocery store became a minefield. The dog park was a maze of familiar faces trying to avoid eye contact. I started noticing people whispering. A couple I'd known casually, Ben and Alicia, straight up crossed the street when they saw me walking Buster one morning. Maybe they were on Team Eric. Maybe they were just uncomfortable. Either way, it cemented my decision. I needed out. Not just out of the townhouse or the relationship, but out of Asheville entirely. I wanted a fresh canvas. Lindsay, being the literal MVP of the century, agreed to go apartment hunting with me in Charleston. We drove down one weekend, walked through 6 different places, and ended up finding this perfect little second-floor unit with big windows, hardwood floors, and just enough space for me and Buster. I applied on the spot. 2 days later, I got approved. The deposit was steep, but I didn't care. I needed this. Moving day came faster than I expected. Lindsay and I boxed up everything I had left at Eric's, most of it in the garage or shoved in the back of closets. He wasn't home. I told him I'd be there that weekend and asked him not to be around. He agreed. Whether it was guilt or fear of another public roasting, I don't know. But he stayed gone. I left the key on the kitchen counter, along with a note that said, "Thanks for the lesson." No signature. Just that. It felt clean. Final. I hit the road with Buster riding shotgun, the playlist blasting, the last remnants of my old life packed into the trunk of my Civic. As the mountains faded behind me, I didn't cry. I didn't second guess. I didn't wonder if I'd done too much or not enough. I just drove. Windows down. Heart steady. I had turned a betrayal into a broadcast. I had turned humiliation into honesty. And now I was turning the page. Charleston was hot and sticky in a way that clung to your skin and made your clothes feel slightly damp even in the shade. But it was exactly what I needed. The first morning in my new apartment, I stood barefoot in the middle of the empty living room holding a cup of coffee I made in the world's tiniest drip machine, and felt something I hadn't felt in weeks: possibility. The floors creaked under me in this satisfying way when I walked, like the building was old but proud, the walls scarred with stories I'd never know. I opened all the windows and let the humid air mix with the scent of moving boxes and cheap vanilla candles. Buster explored every corner like he was mapping the place for some dog version of Google Street View. I didn't even unpack that day. I just existed. I laid on the floor, let the ceiling fan spin lazily above me, and let the silence wrap around me like a fresh sheet. No Eric. No Jenna. No whispered conversations in the bathroom. No pretending. Just me. A few days later, I started working remotely again. I didn't tell anyone in Asheville I'd moved except for a small handful of people. Lindsay, of course, plus Taylor and a couple of coworkers I trusted not to gossip. The rest of them? They could wonder. I wasn't interested in giving Eric the satisfaction of knowing what I was doing or where I was. He didn't deserve to know anything else about my life. That chapter was burned. What surprised me most, though, was how quickly I started laughing again. Not polite, fake laughs, the kind where your chest actually shakes and you have to lean on something to stay upright. It happened during a FaceTime with Lindsay when she told me her neighbor's cat had somehow stolen a burrito from her DoorDash order and dragged it onto their roof. We laughed so hard I spilled tea down my shirt. It happened again while I was walking Buster near the pier and this kid tried to pet him, then screamed because he thought Buster licked his soul out. I laughed until my stomach hurt. These tiny moments felt like stitches being pulled tight over old wounds. I started finding little rituals again. I bought fresh flowers from the farmer's market every Saturday morning, even when I couldn't justify the cost. I made pancakes on Sundays with too much syrup. I walked barefoot around the apartment even though the floors were kind of gritty because it made me feel free. Every small joy was a defiant act. I wasn't healing because someone told me to. I was healing because I'd earned it. Meanwhile, the digital world kept buzzing in the background. The Instagram story had long since disappeared, but the party saga had become its own folklore. Someone told Lindsay that a friend of a friend was using it as an example in her women's studies thesis. Apparently, Rachel's boxes had become shorthand for public accountability. I tried not to think about it too much. That story wasn't me anymore. It was a moment, one that had passed. Still, the emails came. Not from Eric anymore. He must have finally accepted the silence, but from strangers. Women mostly. A few men. People telling me I'd inspired them. People asking for advice. People confessing things they hadn't even told their therapists. I didn't respond to most of them. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't want to become a symbol. I wasn't some perfectly polished heroine. I was a woman who got cheated on and decided to make a scene. That doesn't make me a saint. It just makes me done. One night, while reorganizing the bookshelf I swore I'd already organized twice, I found a notebook I didn't remember packing. Inside were old lists, goals, to-dos, bucket list items. One page was labeled before 30 and had 10 things written in ballpoint pen. Some were crossed out already. Get promoted. Visit Chicago. Learn to make risotto. Others hadn't been touched. Take a solo trip. Learn French. Start a blog. That last one made me pause. I used to love writing. In high school, I wrote short stories constantly. College too. But somewhere along the line between deadlines and adulthood and heartbreak, I stopped. Maybe it was time to start again. Not for anyone else. Just for me. So I opened my laptop, created a fresh Google Doc, and just started. First it was messy. Rambling. A stream of thoughts about betrayal and renewal. And the weirdly satisfying sound of a fire pit consuming an apology letter. But soon it started to shape itself. I wasn't writing a tell-all. I wasn't rehashing the party or naming names. I was writing about what it means to leave. What it means to take your life back without waiting for permission. That first piece ended up being 2,300 words. I titled it Unpacking, Boxes and Otherwise. I posted it on a personal blog I created that night. A plain white template with black serif font and no photos. I didn't promote it. Didn't share it. Just published it and let it exist. Felt good. Like putting a pin in a map saying, I was here. I made it out. A few days later someone commented. Just a simple, thank you. That was enough. More than enough. My Charleston life started settling into a rhythm. Morning coffee, afternoon dog walks, evening writing. I made a few new friends at a trivia night downtown. Funny how that's where it all started with Eric too. But this time there was no spark, no drama. Just laughter, good beer, and people who didn't know a damn thing about me except that I knew way too much about 90s sitcoms. I wasn't looking for love. Not then. I was too busy loving me. Real love, healthy love, wasn't something I could chase. It would have to find me, and I wasn't leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. I was building a fortress, not made of walls but of standards, boundaries, lessons learned the hard way. And the funny thing, I didn't miss Eric. Not once. Not even during the quiet nights. Not even when I saw something that reminded me of him. His memory didn't make me ache. It made me shrug. That's when I knew I was okay. Not perfect. Not invincible. But okay. The girl who once planned a man's birthday party, while he was sneaking around behind her back, was gone. In her place was someone stronger. Smarter. A little sharper around the edges, sure. But still soft where it counted. I wasn't defined by what had been done to me. I was defined by what I chose to do with it. And I chose to rise. It's funny what sticks with you. You'd think after everything, the messages, the betrayal, the birthday party bombshell, the memory burned deepest in my mind would be the moment Eric's face crumpled when he realized the walls were closing in. Or the exact pitch of Jenna's voice when she said, "It wasn't serious. Like that somehow excused screwing around with someone else's boyfriend. Or maybe the slow, deliberate way I folded each screenshot into those little black boxes, tying gold ribbon with trembling hands and a kind of focused fury I'd never felt before or since. But no. What sticks with me the most even now is the sound of chairs scraping on grass. The way people shifted their weight, unsure if they were supposed to stay or go. The flicker of discomfort on their faces when they realized the party had changed shape completely, morphing from a celebration to a reckoning. That liminal moment, the breath held between normal and chaos, that's what etched itself deepest. Because that's when I knew it worked. Not just the revenge, the clarity. Everyone saw them for who they really were. And I saw myself clearly too, maybe for the first time in years. I've had time to think since then. Charleston has given me space. The ocean helps, something about the way waves just keep coming no matter what, indifferent and unstoppable. I've walked Buster down the shoreline so many times the sand feels like home now. I watch tourists snap selfies and kids chase seagulls and think about how small my old life feels now, like a snow globe I used to shake just to feel something. There's a peace in the distance. A comfort in detachment. I don't check on Eric anymore. I did at first, curiosity got the better of me. I looked at his socials, saw him post a vague story a few weeks after the party with some quote about trust and betrayal. Classic projection. One of those soft-lit photos of a guy looking into the distance with a caption like, "Some lessons cost everything. Please." He still has the same profile picture we took together at Lake Lure. Only I'm cropped out now. Just his shoulders in the frame, like a ghost he didn't bother to erase fully. As for Jenna, she's still MIA online. Either changed her accounts or deleted them altogether. Word from Lindsay is she moved back to Denver, which feels poetic in a way. Full circle. Back to the place where she claimed heartbreak first found her, now carrying a different kind of wreckage. I wish I could say I don't care, that I've ascended to some higher plane of indifference. But that wouldn't be honest. The truth is I hope it haunts them a little, not forever, just long enough. Long enough for Jenna to hesitate the next time she walks into someone else's home. Long enough for Eric to flinch the next time he tells someone, "You can trust me." Consequences are uncomfortable. That's the point. But me? I'm good. Better than good. I found a rhythm in Charleston that suits me. The blog I started is still going. What began as a messy brain dump has grown into a real thing, with real readers, real feedback. People share their stories with me, and I share mine in return. Not the salacious details, not the gossip or the name-calling. Just the lessons. The echoes. The healing. I called the blog The Last Gift. It's a reference, of course, to the party favors, but also to the idea that sometimes the worst thing someone gives you ends up being the final push you need to become who you're meant to be. Eric's betrayal was the last gift he ever gave me. The final offering before I walked away and built something better. I've been published in a couple of small zines. Nothing flashy, but enough to keep the fire going. I even taught a local workshop last month about writing through grief. Not just death, but grief for the life you thought you were building. The version of you that lived in someone else's plans. A woman in the class cried when she read her piece aloud. Said she'd never said the words out loud before. That meant more than any view count or blog stat ever could. I've made new friends. People who know this version of me, not the one who used to bend herself into knots to avoid conflict. People who don't know Eric's name or Jenna's face, or the exact moment my old world cracked. They just know me as Rachel, the writer, the dog mom, the girl who brings scones to book club and knows too much about true crime. There's freedom in that. One afternoon, I was walking through a local art market when I passed a vendor selling handmade jewelry. Tiny delicate pieces made of recycled metal and beach glass. I stopped at one that caught my eye. A charm bracelet with a single gold box dangling from it. It wasn't fancy, just a square with a tiny etched bow. I bought it immediately. The vendor asked if it was a gift. I said, yeah, for someone who really earned it. She smiled, unaware, and wrapped it in tissue paper. I wear it most days now. A quiet little reminder. Not of the betrayal, but of the strength it pulled from me. The voice I found in its aftermath. I still get messages sometimes from people who heard the story. Apparently, someone made a TikTok dramatization. Lindsay sent me the link and I watched it once. Some 20-something actress playing me, wearing a white dress and handing out boxes to stunned party guests while dramatic piano music played in the background. It was oddly accurate. I laughed. Then I turned it off and went back to writing. I'm not angry anymore. Anger burns hot, then leaves you hollow. What I've cultivated is something colder, sharper. Not bitterness, boundaries. I no longer apologize for expecting honesty. I don't explain my standards. I don't make space for people who feed on my softness but choke on my strength. That's not bitterness. That's survival. And if I ever do fall in love again, which who knows, maybe I'll do it with open eyes, I won't be afraid to walk away. I'll remember that I did it once already. Walked away from the wreckage. Chose myself in a room full of people. Said out loud, this is what happened and it wasn't okay. That kind of self-trust doesn't go away. It lives in your bones. So here's what I'll say for anyone reading this who might be where I was. You don't need proof to leave, but if you find it, don't ignore it. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't have to swallow your dignity just to keep the peace. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is tell the truth. Out loud. With a smile. With ribbon. Sometimes the party isn't for celebration. It's for revelation. Eric wanted a party. I gave him one. He wanted attention. He got it. But I got something more. I got myself back. Stronger. Smarter. Softer where it matters and steel everywhere else. I didn't burn his house down. I just opened the windows and let the rot speak for itself. He gave me lies. I gave him the truth in a box tied with gold. The last gift. And the best one.